Hey, what's happening, YouTube? I'm back, JC with Wedge Concepts, and in this video, I'm going to go over the pros and the cons of credit union credit cards. Okay, so let's get right to it. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've recorded a video. It's been about a year and some change. Yeah, a year and some change. And what I did was I went through my videos from last year. I have about 29 videos. And I went to go see which ones were the most popular ones. And the most popular one, as far as the views, was my video that talked about the pros and cons of credit cards for credit unions. So I decided, let's go ahead and start with that. And since it's been a year, I don't really care about perfection, right? So I got me my tea and I'm gonna go over the pros and cons. All right. So disclaimer, I am a Bank of America kind of guy. I have been with Bank of America for about 30 years. No, 26 years. Yeah, 26 years. And I love Bank of America. Some people hate Bank of America. It is what it is. But I also have a number of accounts with credit unions. I have 3 credit union accounts. And there's a reason for that. But to go over the pros and the cons, though, I'm going to do the cons first, and then I'll do the pros, right? So, as you know, with the credit union, you have to meet a certain kind of criteria to join. There's some eligibility things that you got to meet, whether you work for a particular organization or federal government agency, or you are in the armed forces, or you have a family member who's also in the armed forces, or something along those lines. But there's some kind of criteria that you have to meet. So that's one of the cons of being able to join a credit union, to even be able to get access to their credit cards, right? Another thing about a con with credit union credit cards is that your accounts, because credit unions are member owned, right? And they operate a lot differently than big banks. They're not for profit. So if you have a credit card and you have like a savings and you have a different checking account, if you become delinquent on your card, they can actually use your cash. Or let's say if you have an auto loan, they can actually hold your car as collateral. So that way, if you don't pay on your credit cards, they can actually hold that against you and seize those assets. Another con is that a lot of times you'll see with the bigger banks, their credit cards tend to offer better rewards. They're more premium. So not only do you get the cash back and you get the points, but then you also get things like airline baggage fees, you get travel, you get Uber, you get all these other perks. A lot of times these credit unions don't offer those on their credit cards. Their customer service, a lot of times, or the majority of times, when you're dealing with credit unions, they're not open 24 hours a day. So even if you call the number, it may be automated, but you may not be able to get to someone till Monday. So if you have an issue with your card, I mean, of course, if your card has been stolen and you got to report it stolen, then I'm sure you can call the number and you can report it stolen. But as far as if you just want to talk to somebody, just regular banking issues, you'll have to wait until a business day. Credit union credit cards as well. A lot of times, depending on what your credit score is, they may start you out with a lower limit. But I know folks with Navy Fed, and they've started out with like 20K. I know a couple people actually. But most credit unions don't start you out at 20K. Of course, it depends on your score. But you can definitely get that 5 or 10K credit limit. But if you go with a big bank, the Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, then they tend to give you much more because they're obviously larger banks. Now, when it comes to the pros, let me get my notes here. Let's see, make sure I don't forget nothing. With the pros, One of the pros is that with the credit cards, with the credit unions, they're going to offer lower interest rates usually. So from what I've seen, they usually cap it around 16, 17%. You never really see 23, 24% with credit union credit cards. I'm sure they do have some that exist, but it's rare. Of course, their customer service when they're open is definitely going to be much better than a big bank. I'm sure they probably even know your name, especially if you have a credit union that's attached to your place of business. And a lot of federal government agencies, they have their credit union inside of where they work, where you can just go downstairs and stop by the credit union. They'll get to know you and you'll get to know them and you'll help establish that relationship. Sometimes with credit unions, because you are employees, they may give you a perk where everybody gets paid every other Friday. But because you're with a credit union, they might release your funds on Thursday or Wednesday. And sometimes they have all these other perks depending on what credit union you're with. Excuse me. That's what I get for drinking this tea. And I'm not going to edit that out either. The other thing is that you may find it a little bit easier to get a credit card with a credit union depending on your score. So they tend to be a little more lenient, especially if you have your direct deposit coming in there, because they can really see how much money you're bringing in and what your spending habits are. And that's with any bank, actually. That's a little tidbit that I'm going to talk about in another video about building that banking relationship. But when you're with a credit union and you have your direct deposit coming in, yeah, you might have a 680 credit score, but you're bringing in, let's say, $4,000 a month, then yeah, they might give you a $5,000 credit card. Whereas if you go to a big bank, they might give you $1,000. And also with credit unions, they also will give you the opportunity, some of them, no, actually most of them, the ones I looked up, at least in the DC area, you can ask for second consideration. So if you are declined, of course, you can say, hey, you know, this is what's going on. Let's take a closer look at my credit score. Let's look at my income. Maybe you just hit a rough patch 2 years ago, but now you're gainfully employed. They may even start you out with a secure card, but they're definitely give you an opportunity to try to get a second chance, right? So now that we covered that, that's the boring stuff, right? Okay, so now let's talk about the real deal with the credit cards. All right, so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my life and bore you with this. So if you want, you can go ahead and unsubscribe if you haven't subscribed already, or you can just go to another video. But okay, so like I said, I'm with Bank of America, but when people try to decide, which one is better, the big bank or if it's the credit union, my logic is, why not have both? Why must you only have one bank? The idea that your loyalty is only to one bank is just mind-boggling to me, because the big banks, they're here for profit. They're here to make money, and they're all in competition with one another. So on my personal side, yeah, I have a Bank of America account, but I also have a Andrews Federal Credit Union. I have a Department of Interior Credit Union, and I got a Transit Credit Union, and as well as USAA. So that right there, I got 4 accounts going on, and I have credit cards with all 4 of these institutions. And which ones do you think I get the most, the highest credit limit with? It's actually going to be Bank of America, because I have the longest relationship. However, with these credit unions, I come out the gate with 10K based on my score and my history and everything, because that's very important. Don't just think that because you're with the credit union and you some bum off the street with like a 580 saying, I watched this video and James said, let's go ahead and, go to the credit union. You about to get 10K. It ain't going to happen. So don't tell them that I sent you. But the point is that you can have multiple banks. Now, what I did was, the thing I like about credit unions is that as you're building this relationship, you don't have to necessarily get even a checking account. And even with most credit unions, their savings accounts and most times their checking accounts are actually free. You don't have to maintain some minimum. You don't have to try to have so many transactions per month to meet this kind of criteria. You can just open up an account. So with these other credit unions, what I did was I just opened up a savings account. And all I do is deposit like $10 like every other month, every 3 months, just to show some activity. So now I have all these little pockets where money's coming in, no money's coming out. But when I use their credit cards, they can see I'm being responsible, right? So that's the pros and the cons of using a credit union credit card. Don't even worry about the pros and the cons. Make sure you join a credit union, okay? If you aren't with one already, you can just Google. There's so many credit unions out there. If you can't find a credit union, find a regional bank, find a community bank, find something that's really small that when you become a member, like big banks, they have a nationwide, like, let's put it a different way. Let's back up. Let's back up. Hold up. Because I don't know if I should give you all this in this video. But let's say with Bank of America, you go to apply for a credit card. They go to the underwriting, and let's say it's like in some place in Utah. They're going to use like a national average of credit scores and credit reports. They're going to sift through, millions of criteria compared to other people who have similar credit scores, and then determine your limit that way. Whereas if you're with a credit union, a community bank, a regional bank, they cater to their demographic. So here's a little tip, okay? I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to go and give it to you since you hung around to the end. Look for credit unions in Louisiana and Alabama, okay? I'm talking about with a credit score of like 640, you can get a huge credit limit, okay? So just check it out. Just Google it, okay? Just humor yourself. Just look for Louisiana, Alabama, and just look for regional banks, credit unions, and things in that area. And of course, you can open up any kind of checking account or savings account. You can do it online. A lot of times, you can just send them a copy of your ID and everything. Okay, well, this video is too long, 12 minutes. Okay, so thanks for watching my video. You don't even have to subscribe. You don't have to hit the like button. I really don't care. But I do want you to take heed to this information. Hopefully I'm giving you something that you can use, something that can enrich your life, so that way we all can grow together. All right, take care. Peace.